Okay, I'm Bram van Werf. I'm Executive Director of the Open Planets Foundation. The Open Planets Foundation, I'll give you a very short overview of the Open Planets Foundation, is actually founded by some of the major libraries in Europe and some of the major archives. And it comes from some of the under FP7 funded projects. And in these projects, European projects, they did lots of research into long-term accessibility of digital files, of digital information. I think, and in the beginning it was a bit mixed up with digitization. I think they have now a very clear direction in it because actually it's a completely different exercise. I think what you digitize, very often the paper is more safe than the digital format on which you digitize it for a long-term access. So what I will do is I will not go into detail on all of the technical things that we're working on in the foundation and with our members. It's things what Natasha also explored a bit on. Let's say the different technology strategies that you can have to convert, to migrate, to emulate, to virtualize, etc. Whatever you take to make that work. But what I will, what I think is a bit closer to the subject of today is a bit more on our approach, how we are working on creating an open source development community to tackle a couple of the challenges. I think like in most of these European projects, the European Commission, and similar to JISC, has a kind of preference to involve in the R&D the academia. So what you have and what you then get, if you have an engineering challenge, you're at the end of the track, you're left with an incredible amount of prototypes that are hardly documented, very difficult to take any further. What was actually a good idea, but for me, I think it's almost a kind of a mock-up, something what you can use as a startup thinking of a requirement before you engineer anything out of it. And that's actually why they employed me, because in the beginning, because I have a long engineering background. And so actually I'm now for the last couple of years working with the academia and also working close with JISC, but also with libraries and archives to get some engineering sense into the thinking, how we take things further. So this is just a short story. So the thing, what we need to do, what we support the community, but not only the members, but it's our ambition to support the wider community, is to provide tooling, but potentially also services, data services, that can actually take libraries and archives to the right decision how they can preserve their digital assets. So a part of it, like I said, that there is a kind of virtual community, but very often they are more stuck together because of funding than from a deep sense of community. I think that's and not only in UK but in Europe. What we have, and that was after the Planets project, is that actually a couple of them founded Open Planets Foundation. They also got others involved, so the members are the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, but also Microsoft Research, the British Library, some of the major libraries on the continent, and Stanford University. But what we said, well, we need to, apart from lots of people talking about policies and direction, you know, on the floor, things are already going wrong. Anybody going to the web knows that 404 is a very common thing, and especially if the data is managed poorly. And then not even talking about all the formats that on the not so long term and sometimes already today don't render anymore. So I think these are the things that we are working on, and where we try to abandon from the idea of most of the R&D projects, but also address the things that happen today. Because most of the R&D, and actually they are asked to look 5 years ahead, so they have very limited focus on what's happening today. So we have a community, and I think that's what we started up, and we are extending the community. I think the first challenge that we had was that we started developing the code under an as open license as possible, an Apache 2 license, so that there is because the idea is that if you develop a certain tool or a practice that is useful, that you actually hope that a commercial vendor will pick up that type of tooling and will mature it. Because actually the academia and also libraries and archives, if there's one thing what they miss is real hard engineering resources. And to make something stable, To make a prototype is sometimes even a thing of a couple of weeks' work, but to make it a stable thing that survives over time is years of work. And having a system with bug tracking and getting feedback on. So I think that's the part where we are working very hard now, and we have actually to kind of have that mechanism work. We have very frequent hack meetings, I think, and that's a common thing in open source communities as well. If you have a community of users, then you start getting the community of users, but also the developers around the table to seriously start more thinking about what it is, what they really need, what are the hard needs, what people want to have, and what is the hard need, what they really need to be taken care of. So, but it's about collaborating, and I have to say that I was coming from a commercial background, from commercial software vendors. I think that you see a kind of easy thing of where they collaborate, because if they have a common thing, a common challenge, and you see that in the standardization bodies as well, then commercial companies can work quite well together. I think that was a bit of a surprise to me, that's in the public sector and the academia actually far more challenging, because it's especially also in the academia where there's a kind of thing that has a contrast with open source development, because people are almost developing their code, but they do that because they need to go to a conference in 6 months' time. And during that conference, they want to present a fantastic prototype. While the thing with software, and if you want to do it in a stable way, the sooner you share it with the rest of the world, the sooner you get all the peer reviewing and all the mechanisms in place that help you improve the software and make it better. So I think that's what we're doing at this moment right now. So even though we still have some of the technical universities develop their prototypes we also kind of push them with the involvement of Open Plans Foundation to make it more open from the beginning, to publish it under an open license as well. And I think that's taken slowly place. And the other part, what I think, and that's in particular for the type of software that we need to develop, because it's about long-term access. So that means digital access for not 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. So you need to have a vision on maintainability. And I think having it because people, if they talk about the concept of software, they want something fantastic, while very often, and especially in engineering areas, something that is small and really doing what it's supposed to do is often much better and easy to maintain and easy to take over time as well. But that's more and it's a kind of contradicting thing of trying to educate the academia and also some of the big institutes that they have to learn to accept some of the basic principles of engineering, and that if you can't maintain it, or if it's poorly documented, then actually you qualify it as a relatively immature tool. So we do lots of maturing prototypes. So the other part, and that's probably one of the most challenging parts, is that during the R&D cycles, all the big libraries define lots of the things, and also the academia, lots of the things that they want, that they theoretically see as a need. If you look back then, very often after lots of tools that have been produced under funding of JISC or under funding of the European Commission, in practice there's very little what they use. So they're just using whether there's a commercial vendor coming in, and that kind of gives them an idea, this is what we use. So, one of the things, what I think is actually the big contradiction is still where lots of, also even of the bigger members of the Open Plans Foundation have not made their final decision. It's versus they like to buy and consume software. That does the job, so it's not their concern anymore. But if once you start believe in an approach with an open source development, then it's about active participation and collaboration. If you don't think together, then it doesn't work, because only having a tool doing a thing for your own type of business flow is very expensive. So if you need something almost very dedicated to what you do, and if there is a commercial tool available, then better buy the commercial tool and use it as it is. But if you need to have something, and I do think there is a specific requirement in the library or in the Memory Institute's community with regard to long-term access, then you need to create that community. And that is actually one of the most challenging things within libraries and archives at this moment, what I see within the community. We do have a wide community, by the way. So on our hack events, we have 40 to 50 developers and 20 to 30 practitioners coming there defining things. But it takes also a long-term vision and a people investment. If you buy things, you don't need to have all the experts because you can go to a support desk or do anything. But with lots of open source solutions, you are kind of left on your own. So you need to have the experts and the developers. Some of them you need to have on the payroll. You don't need to have any expertise because if you have a strong community, then you can share some things as well. So that actually means that on a perception level, that open source is nice and for free. I think you need to change your way of thinking on how you work as a community, because else it won't work. And I think that's for me still the biggest challenge. And I don't think it will. The other part, I think, if you think in terms of if you want something special, then you can look at even the big global open source development communities like the Mozilla Foundation, the Apache Foundation, etc. They heavily make use of sponsoring as well. Because if you need to have functionality, then you just look for a sponsor for a certain functionality. But I think the biggest part is community. And the community, you need that to maintain it over time. Because the cost of software, and it's not so much different as from all the other things, is not in making it. Making it is actually a very quick thing. And especially with the development of web apps, etc. The longer term cost and the real cost, actually more than 80% is maintaining it. And that's what people tend to forget. And that's where we focus on with Open Planets Foundation. Yeah, thanks.